say, it's like a scholarship. In some cases, folks, with many grants and aid in college, football and basketball generally, although not all basketball programs do it, but generally football programs in Division I, they give 85 full grants and aid, which include books, tuition, housing, and food. Most will give partials. It's possible that if your financial situation is such that you can get more money from Pell Grants than you can getting a scholarship. Maybe that's right. It's just the way that it works. There are categoricals, there are block grants. Ms. Stone, did you read the difference between the categorical loans and the grants and the... What do you think the difference is between a block grant and a categorical grant?
A block grant is used for whatever they want. A categorical has to have a specific...
Has to have a very specific purpose. Alzheimer. Got to fit a category. A block, you give them a whole bunch of money and you allow the particular people to decide in their own local government. So, when TARP came out, when the TARP money came out, and East Grand Rapids built their press box, did they have a categorical grant, a block grant, or a project grant? No, they had a block grant. The city of East Grand Rapids could use the money in any way, shape, or form that they chose. Now, the federal government gave it to them because they thought they were going to build and revitalize roads and those kinds of things. What they used it for was to build probably the best press box in the state. It is absolutely, without a doubt, gorgeous. And unlike ours, it's efficient. What? They were in the process of building it.
Oh, okay. I actually remember that. Like it's the ocean.
It's a pond.
It looks like an ocean.
It looks like an ocean, and it literally is a small pond.
I'm honestly positive.
It's got little ducks and little geese
I thought it
flying
was
around.
Lake
Yeah.
Michigan.
What's the project grant?
The project would be for a specific, like interstate roadway project. It's like a categorical grant, but it's less.
Less money?
Yeah, less money and less broad in its interpretation. Categorical has to be very, very specific. I hope you can see that the federal government gives a lot of money to the states. They should. They're taking 20-some-odd% out of my paycheck. There are some shared duties. I want to talk a little bit. Both can tax. One can't tax for the other services, though. Neither one can tax the other services that the taxes are provided. Like I say, garbage, you can't tax the tax. Certain courts are shared. Eminent domain is shared. The problem with the shared concept of federalism is you get the confusion of Katrina. When Katrina hit the city of New Orleans, you have to, as a state government, ask for help. The federal government will not merely come in and help without the state asking for it. And that's true with the riots in 1967. George Romney, the governor of the state of Michigan, had to say to the United States, "Excuse me, we need your troops." The federal government cannot just send troops into a city without the local state government asking for them. So when Katrina hit and the devastation hit Katrina, most of the blame about the inability to get help to those people was primarily because the state and the city government didn't ask. And they expected the federal government, they hadn't read their little textbook, they expected the federal government to just come in a sweeping way and help all of those who had been disadvantaged by Katrina. The problem with the state and the local government is they're so busy literally clearing the roads. Right? Just think about all the times this summer you got hit with a semi-tornado or big winds and all the trees are down. The local government is so concerned with doing what? Just cleaning up, just getting started, that they have no ability to see and get helicopters up to see the enormity of the damages. No way could they have seen or been able to protect against the levees breaking in New Orleans. So what happens in New Orleans is a classic case. The same thing with BP. You don't know how bad it is because, you know, the Alabama government isn't going to take a plane and go 230 miles offshore to check out BP's oil leak. They're just worried about the little tar balls coming up on their particular shore. So they don't even know what to ask for at a state and local government. But the federal government cannot act unless they get asked. Does that make sense? So in any kind of major national catastrophe that is localized to a particular city, you are always going to have complaints about the federal government not doing enough. It's inevitable because of our shared nature of our government. They've got to ask, and you can only ask if you know what's wrong. Okay? Sometimes you'll have the president, this may make a little bit more sense, sometimes you'll have the president who comes on national television and say, we're ready to assist in any way, shape that we can. We're ready to declare it a federal disaster area. But you'll notice that if you watch the film clips, there's always got to be a governor who goes up in the plane and says, I'm going to ask the president to declare it a federal disaster. Does that make sense now? That's why they're always doing it publicly, so that both sides sort of get an understanding. I want to talk a little bit about the states, especially here. The states have sole control over licenses, and there is this idea of that which is fair from one state to another. One state has to recognize. One thing that they don't recognize, they do not recognize in certain states same-sex marriages as being legitimate. It's an exception to our form of government, at least not yet, which is why this case in California is going all the way to the state, to the federal government. The question of whether or not, especially after 9/11, whether or not it would be reasonable for us to have a national ID instead of our state licenses or our state IDs. By the way, let me tell you, how many of you are 16 and older? It is absolutely necessary